Hi, my name is Maria, and I am the Design and Outreach Officer at Child Rights International Network, also known as CRIN. And all four of us is currently running the Ricebox Studio, where we are doing the Right Studio Fellowship at CRIN, focusing on a period education campaign called the Red Cloud Project. Over to you, Bristy.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm also working as part of the Red Cloud Project. I'm currently working as a campaign officer at MAR, which is the Maternal Aid Association.
Hiya, I'm Sophia. I'm also part of the Red Cloud Ricebox Studio, and I'm currently a design developer for Shades of Noir.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm currently studying a Master's in Creative Computing at University of the Arts London, and I'm also part of the Ricebox Studio and the Red Cloud Project.
Thanks, guys. So today we're going to briefly talk about the Red Cloud Project. And so, as a quick introduction, after graduating from our BA Graphic Design course at Camberwell, we were approached to pilot the Design Fellowship program by CRIN, where graduates explore the intersection between art and activism. So this is where the Red Cloud Project was born, which includes an educational book designed to break shame and stigma around menstruation, and a interactive period cloud, which is basically a shaped box where users can press a button and it prints out some information about periods, the information which can also be found in the book. So in the book, there's quite a lot of information. It ranges from, there is menstrual health information, period products, period poverty and dignified menstruation, breaking period myths, positive representation of periods in different cultures, and then we also have crowdsourced stories from around the world, and have an entire section focusing on religion and menstruation, and also a section focusing on activism, where we interviewed 7 activists around the world focusing on period poverty. So our aim isn't to preach and tell people what to do, but to encourage conversation, sharing, and informing people as much as possible to clear up myths around period. So in order to avoid regurgitating the plethora of useful information out there, we reached out to different experts, both health experts and NGOs, who then provided us with the information that we needed. And in addition to that, we have also included the crowdsourced stories from around the world, and also reflective activities and exercises in order to provoke the conversation needed amongst everyone, including boys. Because we don't wish to impose our point of view, as we are not experts. We deliver the information. So at the moment, the project isn't done yet. It is currently being reviewed, and so today we're going to be focusing a bit on myths in general, and then focusing on religion and menstruation. We're going to talk about different quotes within 4 specific religions that we focused on, which are Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Judaism. And then we are going to introduce you to a brief activity, which we also have in our book. Over to you, Bristy.
There are many myths surrounding periods. Some of these are quite negative and they bring a lot of shame and stigma into the topic. Unfortunately, there are some people who shame others for having their periods through the name of religion and culture.
So we did some research, and within our book, we wanted to explore religion and culture, which are usually quite closely interlinked with each other. And we found that religion is very influential in how people think and view things. So we wanted to try and break the shame and stigma through a theological lens.
Yep. And so we can dive in directly in some of the examples that we've got. So we interviewed Father Jonathan, who is a priest at St. Mary Abbot's Church, sorry, hard to pronounce, which is an Anglican church. So one thing to disclaim first is that the different religious leaders that we interviewed, they don't talk in the name of religion in general. Obviously, within, for example, Christianity, you have different branches, and so each of the people we interviewed have specified that this is their opinion within their specific church, so it's not necessarily spanned across the entirety of Christianity, for example. So Father Jonathan explained to us that within Christianity, at least within the Bible, both in the New and the Old Testament, there's not a lot of mentions of menstruation. And he explained that for Christians, so in his quote, I would say that there is no reason for them to think that they are physically or spiritually impure within the Christian tradition. This is part of who they are, created lovingly as a creature of God. So as you see here, Father Jonathan underlines the fact that menstruation is pretty much a natural thing that basically is created in their existence as created by God, and that it makes them neither physically or spiritually impure in the sense of they can still pray and live as a religious person and practice as normally without having menstruation as a barrier. And so one of the things that he explained, which was very interesting, was one of the reasons why there's not a lot of mentions, at least within the Bible, is, so in his quote, Paul is writing most of the New Testament letters. He's single and doesn't have a wife. Throughout Christian history, the people who are literate are often monks and holy men, and often on their own. So it's not surprising that they're not writing about women, particularly about things that women were keeping or forced to keep hidden from them. So in this case, one can argue that one of the reasons why in Christianity you don't have a lot of mentions of menstruation is just purely because whoever was writing about it just didn't have the experience, and that therefore the few mentions that you have are neither necessarily positive or negative. Some are negative. But aside from that, as Father Jonathan has underlined, for Christians, there is just no reason to think that menstruation is a barrier. So yeah, you can find more about it. You can read the entire interview in our book, which we will make available for free online once it's done. But that's it. That's me for Christianity. Over to you, Anna.
Yes. So we also got the opportunity to interview Rabbi Sybil from the West London Synagogue. And during our interview, we came across this conversation topic in regards to whether people on their periods, while they're menstruating, like, can they touch holy objects, which is, it's quite common across various religions that people on their period, they're not allowed to touch these holy objects, but this is definitely not the case. Rabbi Sybil told us that this is not the case for Judaism, and I would like to share a quote that she mentioned during the interview. So she said, "Most people think that when a woman is menstruating, she cannot touch the Torah scroll, the holiest object. Absolute rubbish. The Torah is not defined by a woman's touch. In fact, the same word used for a woman who is menstruating is used to define holy objects, which is tameh." So that was a bit about Judaism, and I will pass on to Bristi.
Hi. Yes, so we also interviewed Agni Chung, who is a Hindu studies scholar. We've talked about the topic of how if women are considered clean or dirty during their periods of menstruation, and her answer to that was one of the ideas around menstruation is self-purification, which is tapas, that only woman has the privilege to experience, and therefore she doesn't have to take part in particular devotional rituals. And when she's experienced this kind of self-purification, she is kind of resetting her physical and mental well-being.
So within the religious interviews, we also got the chance to interview Imam Arij Anwar. So he is an imam and teacher in Toronto. And so within our interview, we asked about were there any positive stories around menstruation within Islam. And he gave us this really lovely story, which I'm quoting here. "There is an interesting story where there was once a young girl who was traveling with the Prophet and his family. She sat on a camel and had her first period and stained the saddle. She was quite ashamed of that, but when the Prophet heard about it, he said, 'There's nothing to be ashamed of,' and he instructed to wash away the stains and just reuse the same saddle. Don't try to replace it." I think this quote very succinctly shows that the girl, she was really, really ashamed for staining her saddle, but the Prophet itself reminds everyone that there's literally nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with menstruation or even menstrual leaking. And instead of kind of getting rid of the saddle because of the stain, to just put it out in the sun and to just clean it and then just reuse it. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And so it shows that if there's a culture of shaming something that the Prophet said is a natural thing and something that the Quran said is a natural thing and is a painful process, meaning that empathy is required here, not shaming.
Nice, thanks. So these were the different religious quotes from the different branches that we've interviewed. So if you want to know more, you can just follow us at Red Cloud Project, where on Instagram, where we've been updating our feed with different quotes. So now I'm going to introduce you to the 5 whys exercise. 5 whys. So the way it works is you have 2 players, which is going to be demonstrated by Anna and Saf. And the 2 players basically sit together, and one player will start with an issue, and then the second player will then ask why, and he will ask why 5 times. So the idea with the 5 whys exercise, which some of you probably already know, is that you basically, it helps you get to the root of an issue. And it also allows you as a person to kind of get to the root of maybe something deeper that you've thought about in the past. And it just helps you get to terms with what potential solution you can use in order to help that issue. So we're going to demonstrate it now with Anna and Saf.
So we're going to use an example that is in the book, and that example is, I am not allowed to use tampons.
And I'll start off with asking the questions. The first one being, why are you not allowed to use tampons?
My mum is scared that it will mean I'm no longer a virgin.
Why is your mom scared that you will no longer be a virgin?
Because she believes tampons can break your hymen.
Why does she believe that tampons can break your hymen?
Maybe because no one told her it's a myth.
And why did no one tell her that it's a myth?
Because she didn't have menstrual education at school.
And why did she not have menstrual education at school?
They didn't think it was important, or they were too shy to talk about it in public.
Okay, so those are the 5 questions, and I'll go through each of them again. So the initial problem was that I am not allowed to use tampons because her mom is scared that it will mean that she's no longer a virgin. And she believes this because she believes tampons can break your hymen. And the reason to that is that maybe because no one told her that it's a myth. And that is because she didn't have menstrual education at school. And they didn't think it was important or were too shy to talk about it in public.
Cool. I know you guys can kind of figure out together what kind of solution can be, what kind of solution you can have in order for Sophia to be able to wear tampons. So how can you...
It's an example.
It's an example, yeah, from the book. So what kind of potential solution, for example, can you have in order to fight that problem, tackle that problem?
So definitely would be trying to talk about it.
Definitely. And also maybe another solution would be to kind of talk about like the correct information around tampons and get information, or talk about kind of like the medical aspects of using tampons, kind of accurate information about it.
Nice. Agreed. So yeah, that's the 5 whys. So just to basically briefly recap the issue that we just gave an example, the example that is also from our book, which is a person cannot wear tampons because her mom won't allow her, because she thought it was a myth, because she didn't have menstrual education at school, and therefore she thought that it was not appropriate. So then the solution that they came up together was that potentially, what was the solution?
to talk about it using the right
To
information.
talk about it. So as you can see, this exercise can be used in different ways within periods in order to like trigger period conversation, period talk, and just in general to kind of uncover different myths that we all might have subconsciously or very openly about periods. And it is a good way to kind of like get to the root of why a myth, like these type of negative myths exist. And yeah, so it's like an alternative way of educating, I guess, with that activity. So we will share the screenshot of the book throughout this thing so that you can have a look at the different extracts that we currently have developed. And then once this project is done, it's going to be disseminated around the globe, both printed but also digitally. We will have a website on which you can find the book and you can go through it at your leisure. So yeah, that was Red Cloud Project. Follow us on Instagram at Red Cloud Project. And make sure to ask your period and puberty related questions on Twitter using the hashtag OneWorldPeriodQ&A, and we will answer them all next week. Hashtag OneWorldPeriodQ&A. So thank you guys. That was our segment on religion and menstruation. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.